Hello everyone, welcome to the next episode on SAP UI 5. In the last class, we talked about XML and resource model. In today's session, we will start with introduction of SAP Fiori. Before we proceed towards today's class, there are two action items on me to discuss. One is how to align the label with the simple form elements. So this is what we have seen. So we have created our Fiori application, and you can see that in our Fiori application, the alignment of our label with input field was not working. So this was one open point. So let me just quickly show you. There's a property into the form which I found in UI5 SDK. The moment you set that property, it will align it. Let me probably switch to the English mode once again in our data. So I come down, comment out this code of HI, and now go to the view, and you can see here we have our simple form control. You can add a property called editable equals to true. The moment you add this property, your alignment will start working. Refresh, and you see now employee number is pretty aligned with the uh, input fields. So this was one action item which was open. Second was with the dates. So the joining date was not coming up properly. That was because the format of the date in the JSON what we created was incorrect. Let me correct the format. So by default, JavaScript understand YYYY MMDD format for the dates. So I go back to our data inside our model, and you see here it's YYYY MMDD. This is ABAP format, guys. We got to change it quickly here to YYYY MMDD format. Just change that in the test data. However, if you're getting this data from any system like YYYY MMDD, you can also do a string operation onto the incoming data in your formatter to convert it to first YYYY MMDD, and then later on go to lifesaver.js where we have this get joining date. Whatever is the date coming up, that you can take it, and when you're creating new date object, pass that date YYYY MMDD format in this. So pass YYYY hyphen MM hyphen DD format date to this. And now I want to display finally the date into DDMMYY format, which is Indian format of date. That's what I do. And you can see I've done that. dd.mm.yyy. This set date is not required. Save it. Let's come back, refresh the page, and voila, you can see now it's in desired format of what we wanted, dd.mm.yyy. So only the problem was JavaScript date format was incorrect, which we wanted to set to the date object. Once we corrected that, it's working fine. Clear, everybody? Both the open items which was there on my name are completed. There's one more action item on me before I go for vacation, is giving you a video about creating a responsive grid layout form. How does it work? What is a responsive grid layout? And also how to create a responsive table in Fiori. We will be discussing that in my learning series video. I promise I will give you that before my vacation. Okay, coming back now to SAP Fiori. What exactly SAP Fiori is all about? Why SAP Fiori? So what is SAP Fiori, guys? Let's talk about that. So by far we saw how to create user interface. Okay, so by far we saw how to create user interface using SAP UI 5. But we have a concept called UX. UX stands for user experience. Now, first question before we move to Fiori is to understand the difference between UX and UI. Okay, what is the difference between UI and UX? UI is the technical user interface. However, UX is how user is used to apps. That's UX. You can never change. So you can change UI, but cannot change UX. You can't change UX, guys. UX is something you need to adapt to. Okay, you need to, you must try to make your UI as close to UX as possible. Okay, you need to take your UI and try to make your UI as close possible as UX. To understand this difference between UX and UI, let's try to understand and look at one very popular picture which I always show it in my classes. Difference between UI and UX. Let me just show you that picture. So UX, one second. I'm just trying to show that picture. Yes, it's a very popular picture which I always show that to the people when to make you understand pretty easily the difference between UI and UX. So what is exactly the difference between UI and UX? This is a very popular picture. So let me show you that picture. It's on your screen now. So you can see, guys, here there is a path which is created for the house, and you can observe that there is a predefined cemented concrete path. This is the design. This is your UI, guys. So ideally this is how it should be. And you see, this is user experience. This is how user is used to working with it. Clear, everybody? The difference between UI and UX now. Can you change UX? Can you change UX, guys? No. User is used to this. User is following this path. That's his user experience. But this is what your design. So what you should do ideally? What you should do ideally? You should think of providing a good UX. You might have seen these days, it's very often when people are constructing roads these days, they always create a side cut. Yeah, you might have seen this on signals. There is always a side cut now these days. What is that? The road authority in India, they have understood that there are people who are stuck in traffic because they wanted to go on the left side. However, the left side there is no collision, there is no chance of collision of having a traffic. But due to signal is switched off, due to signal is red, people cannot take a left turn. So they have opened extra cuts, yeah, extra cuts to improve the user experience. That's what exactly is happening. So if you keep the design, no problem, but try to give an option to the user that user can also follow this experience, what user is used to. So that's a very basic layman term experience of a user experience and user design. We're going to talk about little more in detail in upcoming days. Let's move on now. Fiori is all about UX, guys. Fiori is all about UX, which means there are UX guidelines provided by SAP to make sure that if you create your application using these guidelines, you will be able to achieve a great user experience. Okay, that's what will happen. You will be able to achieve a great user experience when these things happens. Clear, everyone? What is the guideline? So where can you find these UX guidelines? You can of course find it on the internet. So let me just show you SAP Fiori UX. Search for that and you can see the very first one, UX apps Maybe here we see design.sap.com Fiori UX HTML. Yeah, the very third link. I go inside this now, and then you'll see complete set of guidelines provided by SAP about designing a Fiori application using following the UX. You can see reimagine SAP experience, design thinking Fiori UX. Let's go to Fiori UX, and now you'll find all the guidelines related to design, a philosophy of the design, Fiori UX. Okay, so learn more. Okay, that's UX guidelines for SAP Web ID, UX Fiori UI design guidelines. You see this one? Just take this link, direct link as well, experience.sap.com Fiori design. And I see Fiori for iOS, SAP Fiori. And now in this, you will find SAP Fiori get started, explore, get started. All these things you can find. What is SAP Fiori, beginner guide, design principles, what you should do, what you should not do, which types of colors you should use, what type of theming you should do, how should your UI look like. All that is Fiori UX design guidelines. However, it's implicit majority of the time when you use SAP Fiori UX libraries, which is sap.m library, and the development technique which I will teach you, you don't need to read through all of them, in detail. But it's a good practice if you read them, but not necessary, mandatory for you to get started with Fiori development. But try to understand Fiori is all about user experience. How Fiori apps are created? Fiori apps are created by using SAP UI5 framework. So SAP UI5 is the framework, guys, which provides you to build the application, build the Fiori application. But if you just talk about Fiori, Fiori is all about user experience. So Fiori apps are created by SAP UI5 framework, and Fiori is all about user experience. Okay. How, where can you find the guidelines for user experience? Here are the guidelines for user experience. Now, when we will learn building the Fiori application, I have designed this course in such a way that you automatically um, experience the best in class design principles to be able to build this application. You don't need to explicitly go and learn these guidelines. Yeah. However, one good example you can find for Fiori learning is look at the standard apps, how they're designed. You can see some standard Fiori apps on sapfioritrial.com. This is the website where you can go and look at some standard Fiori application. So let me just open this website. So the very first thing you're going to see on this application is a Fiori Launchpad, which I was talking about yesterday. Fiori Launchpad is the single entry point for your business users to be able to access your Fiori application. So let's go and see it in action. You would see SAP Fiori Launchpad will pop up, where you will find all the Fiori applications. This is how really in real time in your business, in your real time world, your users are going to access. You are not going to give the URL to every user for every app. Your Fiori Launchpad is the single entry point for all the Fiori application in your company. Okay, you see SAP Fiori Launchpad. Now, for example, I want to create a leave request, which you all are very familiar with, a normal process in a company. Whenever you want to apply for vacation, you request for leave in your company. So I just click on my leave request, and now I can choose on what date I will be on vacation. So let's say I'm on vacation from 18th to 24th or 25. Yeah. So I can choose that dates, and I can say, hello, my manager, my dear manager, please approve my vacation. That's it, guys. Regards, Anubhav. Yeah. Click on save, send, and now the leave request will be sent. So right now there are no leave quota available for this guy at this point of time. That's why it's not working. So maybe just try for one day. It is not approving that as well. There's no leave quota available, guys, at the moment in the system for this employee, because everybody using this Fiori application. So that's the reason. So now maybe I choose something called business trip type of leave, which it should allow. Okay, now you see it's asking me to send a leave request for a business trip leave. Click on OK. and you can see the leave request has been sent. A message comes at the bottom, and now what manager has to do, manager has to go to another application called approve leave request, and there the manager will find the leave request which has been raised by the employee. So this is called a master detail kind of application, where you see on the left side all the line items, all the available action items, and on the right side when you click on an each item you will see the details. So maybe I'll show you another app, which is, let's say, my purchase order app. So I just come down and we'll see the purchase order application, maybe just to get, yeah, approve purchase order application. I'll go in this. So in this you can see all the open purchase orders which are not yet approved in my inbox are available. I can choose each and every purchase order, and then it shows me on the right side the details of that purchase order. So you can make out that this is a simple form what we have seen by far. And you see there's a table at the bottom, and I can also have a drill down inside the item of each item of the table. So these are all the capabilities what do we have, and this kind of application experience is called master detail. The beauty of this experience is, if I just press F12, guys, I press F12, and now you see there's a tiny button called toggle device toolbar. Now this is an amazing feature of Chrome browser, turning your desktop into a mobile device. Okay, it will turn your desktop into a mobile device. Now the moment I click, you can see now your desktop has been turned into a mobile device. And now you can experience how your application will behave in mobile. So without really testing it in a mobile, you can test it directly in the Chrome browser like this. Yeah. So now I come here and now I see it is showing me all the line items here. Maybe I just quickly refresh and show you how does it look. So when your application starts, it won't have now that much of space to showcase you the different things. Now it has actually your first screen where you see all the purchase order, all the purchase, and you see Launchpad is also adopted. So maybe I just go and open purchase order application, approve purchase order. So it starts first now the master list. So you see, it has adapted beautifully. The first screen is a list control now, where you can now choose an item, and then it takes you to the details of the product. And now you see this detail line item. This is a responsive table. I will create this also in the video of Anubhav Learning series, how to create such a table. And I click on an item and it takes you to the next screen. So see the beauty, guys, it adapts the screen automatically based on the device. And that's only possible when you use SAP Fiori user experience. Okay. So all the controls which are part of this are part of SAP.m library. So we are going to use SAP M library, guys, to design this. And you see right now it's running in a mobile mode. So it's understanding and making sure that in mobile user get a seamless experience. Now imagine if I would have been running this in the same way the way it was running in desktop, then we would have had a problem, because now you see in the desktop it has more space, so it can accommodate both the list and the detail screen together. So this whole list and this detail screen both can be accommodated on the desktop pretty easily without any problem. And that's because it has more space. But however, in mobile, you don't have that much of space to accommodate both the areas in a single screen, right? So it's adapting itself. When you're loading in mobile, this list is coming first, and when user is choosing an item, it's taking to the detail screen. So that's self-adoption. This is called responsive nature of Fiori, guys. That's the power of SAP Fiori user experience. Hope you got some glimpse, some idea. Please experience multiple applications respective to your area in your company. Very, very important. So you see lots of applications for HR, CRM, retail, travel expense, SDMM, finance are given over here. You got to go inside these applications, whichever belongs to your expertise area in SAP functional area. You can go and experience some of these Fiori UX designs to understand how close you can develop yourself as well. Okay. However, I will show you the techniques. The course itself is designed in such a way that the moment you learn it, you don't really need to, much care about making sure of everything. Okay. However, for a specific need, you should go and look at the guideline, what guideline has to say, and then design your application accordingly. So let's get started with creation of our first Fiori app. Now there's a little difference in the project structure, the way we created for UI5 and now the way we want to create it for Fiori. So let's understand what is the new structure of our Fiori application, how will it be different from a UI5 application, and design that. Let's go ahead with that. Okay, so let's write Fiori UX application. So by far what we have done, guys, we have created views, or in fact one view or two view whatsoever we created. So it was, the starting point was your index HTML file, and in index HTML file we had our, inside this index HTML file we actually had created object of view. Yeah, this is what we've done. We've created object of view. This is what exactly we have done, an object of a view, and then inside the view we were actually creating, returning the control objects. Yeah, all the controls we were returning, and we are using, guys, all the XML views here, sap.view.xml. All the XML views we are using in our training by far, in fact in future as well. Okay, this is the current structure of your UI5 application. Now when it want to work with the mobile device and with responsive nature, we got to probably change it a little bit, and we need to now go ahead and change the structure. So now in SAP Fiori, actually, when it's supposed to run in a mobile, there is always a need for a container control. So Fiori application always has a container control, usually sap.m.app. This is the container control, which encapsulates all the views. This is one big difference in a conventional UI5 application and a Fiori application. When you're designing, you will always have an sap.m.app control. And where is this guideline coming from? This is coming from Fiori UX design guidelines. This whole thing, what I've written, is actually from Fiori UX experience design guidelines. So your index HTML yet again is the starting point to do a testing of your application, and then you have something called an container control, sap.m.app. Right now I'm using, guys, this is my container control. Now this container control of sap.m.app control actually includes something called a view. So your starting point is going to be a view, so you can probably put an app.view.xml. That's the name we give. And now this view further on, or you can also design it little different way. We will, over a period of time, we will simplify even this one, because we have a lot of concept to learn, like component JS, router, route match handler, manifest JSON. We're going to learn all those concepts in upcoming days in our class, but right now let's understand that now this container control sap.m.app is going to contain the object of the view. Now if you have multiple views, those multiple view objects will also come and encapsulate inside your app control. So your app control has something called pages aggregation. And that pages aggregation allows you to encapsulate multiple views inside the app control. Okay, that's what exactly it does. So app control encapsulating multiple view objects inside, and then you can further, if you want to navigate between view 1 and view 2, your app control, who's the parent, is responsible. Let's take a simple example. There are two brothers. So there is a brother 1 and there is this brother 2. Okay, why they are brothers? Because they belongs to same parents. Yeah, now these two brothers are now having fight, so they don't talk to each other. So now if brother 1 wants to get something done with brother 2, since they both are having fight with each other, what will they do? What will the brother 1 do now if he want to do something done with brother 2? Since he has a fight, he cannot directly talk to brother 2. What will this brother 1 does? Anybody? The brother 1 will go and ask parent saying that, can you ask brother 2 to do something for me, please? And you all know parent is same for both of them. Parents are always not partial. Okay, they are never they never make difference between their children's. So just for the sake of making the first child happy, the parent then talks to this guy too and get the work done. Yeah, so this is what is currently going to happen. So here these two views, when you now want to navigate from one view to another view, they don't have a direct connection. Okay, so what do you think to navigate from view 1 to view 2? What is that which we would be doing? What is that which we would be doing to navigate from view 1 to view 2? They don't have a direct connection, just like these brothers doesn't have. What is that the brothers were doing? What is that brothers were doing over here? They were talking to parent. Same thing happens here. The parent of these views is SAP M control. We are going to use SAP M control, SAP M.app control, to be able to navigate from one view to another view. This is what we will be doing, guys, in a minute. However, there is more advanced concept called SAP router routing configuration manifest JSON. We will be discussing that in detail, but that will be a very high dose for you guys in the first session of Fiori. That's the reason I will not discuss that right now. Over a period of time, our main goal is to make sure that our application looks like a standard Fiori application. Nobody should be able to give a bad review comments on our application. That should be our main goal. When people review, see, you can develop a Fiori app, there is no doubt about it. You can also follow internet blogs. There are lots of good number of blogs on internet which allows you and helps you to build Fiori app. But you will always have that fear in your mind that, have I done it correctly? Have I followed the standard? Have I make sure that nobody reviews my code and then gives me bad comments that you have not done it standard way? That is one fear which always keeps us disturbed when we design a Fiori application with the copy paste. Yeah, that's the fear I want to remove from all of you. I will step by step teach you all the steps, all the necessary artifacts which needs to be there in your Fiori application. But that's a long way story. That's a long way story. This is very first session where I am just showcasing you very simple Fiori application, having a navigation between two views, 1 to 2 and 2 to 1. And that's a simple use case I right now want to demonstrate. And that's the reason I'm not going into too much complicancies of component JS and routing and stuff like that. However, in a long term, the best solution, the final application which we create in this course, we will be having this proper concept of component and stuff like that. So don't panic right now. I will not teach you anything wrong, but just that we need to go into the right flow so that you guys can understand from the basics, from the fundamentals. Let's go to the system and create our first Fiori application. So I'm going to come back to our SAP Web IDE. Remember, the whole course is designed on SAP Web IDE. We are using SAP Web IDE. Many people come back to me and ask me, Anubhav, what do? We want to use Eclipse in our company. Guys, to understand that clearly, go to my website, onlinefiorytrainings.com, and there we have something called Anubhav Learning Series, where I've already posted a video explaining about difference between Eclipse and Web IDE. This is a very, very often question. Many people continuously asking me, why not Eclipse, why Web IDE? So you can watch this video, how to decide what to use, what is the advantage, disadvantage of each of the approach. Please look at this Anubhav Learning Series video. You would get a fair idea about differences between Web IDE and Eclipse. So please do that so that your doubt can be clarified. So things which I cannot directly explain you because they would take time to make you understand, I do create Anubhav Learning Series video for that. And that's the one video, you can see it here. So now coming back, let's start with our application. So anyways, we always going to start with an index HTML that's used for testing our application. So I'm just going to copy the content for the time being. And I'm going to start my first Fiori apps, a new folder. And I'm going to say my first Fiori app. Okay, it already exists. So maybe we're going to change just with the first Fiori app. Yes, it got created. And now I'm going to just get a new file. index.html. And you all know by far with the learning in UI5 framework that we have some concept called bootstrapping done. So that's the bootstrapping concept, we have it. So you can see here is a bootstrapping. We are taking right now it from CDN, Google CDN, sorry, the Akamai CDN. And now I'm just going to put the namespace for my project. So I'm going to name this project namespace. Let's say I'm working with OFT company, so I can say OFT dot project. You all know what is namespace. Namespace is nothing but the location of the root folder of Fiori application. So what is the location now for the root folder? This OFT dot project indicates that the folder path is first Fiori app. This is what it is indicating. That's your namespace of your Fiori app. So now all the path of your views and controller and everything will be corresponding to this OFT.project. Okay. Now I save this and let's now change this guy a little bit over here. So earlier we were directly creating instance of a view. And if you remember now with the Fiori UX, you're going to create an instance of an app control. And that's what you're going to place in the body of HTML. And then further on, this app control is going to have objects of your views. So let's do that. So I'm going to create var app object new sap.m.app object. And now we're going to just give an ID to this. Let's say ID app. And now what we will do is we will create the view objects. So I'm going to add two views. So right click on this, say new. I'm going to say SAP UI5 view. An XML view I'm creating. The namespace is OFT. OFT stands for onlinefioritrainings.com dot project. That's my namespace. And then I'm going to just add a view called first view. Okay, just name it as first view. And that's it. Say next and say finish. You would see first view and first controller would have got created automatically. Let's add another view, say new, another SAP UI5 view. And I'm going to name this view as second view. So namespace is again OFT.project and then say second view and say next and finish. You can see the second view and second controller is also created. Wow. So that's my first view and second view. Now it's time to instantiate the view objects the same fashion the way you did it in SAP UI5. Never copy paste the code, guys. You are copy pasting the code, you are lying to yourself, and never learn from trainers who are teaching you copy paste, because those trainers are not teaching you, they are cheating you. They will get rid of the effort of writing the code and skip away explaining you the code line by line, which will always hamper you when you go to production. In production, the issue is not with writing a fresh code. The issue is in an existing code, and until you understand line by line, you will not be able to create, you will not be able to fix the issue. Try to understand code line by line, and the best way to do that is write every single line of code yourself without copy pasting the code. Never copy paste the code. That's what I recommend always. After you get used to the development environment, the development effort, the development line by line understanding, then you can start copy pasting, because to speed up your development you need to copy paste. Till you understand, never copy paste the code. Okay, let's come back. Put here creating the container object, and I'm just going to create my view object over here. So let's say create first view object, and then also create second view object. Yeah, so let's create our first view object var o first equal, any name you can give your choice, in new sap.ui.view. I'm just going to add the couple of properties. ID of the view, I just say ID first. Then we're going to just choose the view name. I think it's just the name property. And we're going to give the complete path of the view. So you know that we already defined the namespace over here. This namespace indicates the root folder path. So the root folder path, which is oft.project dot view folder dot the view path, the view name. That's the complete flow. So let's come back. I'm going to put here the name oft.project. That's the namespace. Path of my root folder dot view folder dot first view. That's my view. And then let's put, okay, it's I think view name property. Yeah, you can check that in UFF SDK. And now let's put the type SAP UI core MVC dot view type dot XML. That's how you create object of a view, guys. I have already explained in the past unit about what is this means. This is a constant available in SAP UI5 to indicate the view type. Now our first view object is created. Similarly, let's create the object of view 2. I call it as a second view, and let's create new. And once again, we're going to put all three properties inside one by one in the second view. So typically in real-time Fiori application, the view objects are created by router object, not by this way. But to start with the very first Fiori application, the very basic, I am doing it in this way. Okay, guys. So we will over a period of time improve this code as well. Okay, step-by-step learning. That's the best way of learning. Okay, wow. Both the view objects are created, and now we're going to add these view objects inside the app control. See, they should know who is my parent. These views should know who is their parent, right? So app control has to encapsulate both of them. Now, where do you find the information about what are all the properties or an aggregation of an app control where you're going to add your views? So yes, right answer, Archana, it's UI5 SDK. So go to UI5 SDK and explore the documentation for the app control. So I go to SAP UI5 SDK and go to API reference, and now you search for the app control. There you go, sap.m.app control. I don't find any aggregation here. Anybody? What do we do next? If we don't find any aggregation method or a property in a control, what we are looking at in SDK, what do we do? Anybody? I taught you this. Perfect answer. Go to parent class. Go to parent class. This is what we've learned in previous chapters. Very good, guys. You are able to answer that. And now go to aggregations. And now you see here there is something called pages aggregation. Wow. Which means you can add any UI5 control in this pages aggregation to be part of an app control, which is your container. I'm going to add my views inside this pages aggregation. So there are two ways to do that. One option, directly while creating the object you add the pages. Another is use the methods. So there must be methods like add page. Yes, you can see here add page method. You can call this method and add your view objects inside the app control. So let's use the method technique. So option number one could be like when you are defining this constructor, you can put pages, and then inside here only you will pass your view objects. Okay, this is one way, guys, of doing it. Okay, this is one way. I'm not right now using this technique, constructor technique. I'm right now using method technique. Both more or less are same. One is with method, one is with directly constructor parameter. Okay, so add page, and I'm going to add O first and O second. Okay, let's do that. So both the views are now getting added. Add the childs to parent. Yeah, so app becomes the parent for them. And finally put the app control in the body of HTML. We use place at method to place it into the content of HTML body. Okay, now there's a question from Archana. If we need to use constructor approach, do we need to create view objects first? Absolutely right, Archana. So if you want to use aggregation technique like this with the constructor parameters, this piece of code definitely should be shifted below. Okay, it should be shifted somewhere here. That's what you have to do it. Okay, clear everybody? She's right. You have to shift your code below. Clear, Archana? Very good question. Okay, coming back. We are done, guys. Now you should see first app object and second app object. Let's give a quick title for your views. So I go back and give the title for my view there, and I'll say this is my first view and save this, and let's come back here and this is my second view. I save both of them. Let's gonna test this. So I'm gonna come back and run this application. It's gonna get the bootstrap from the UI5 CDN, which is Akamai CDN. We discussed about it already in the past class, Akamai CDN. And now just gonna run this and let's see what do we get. Wow, congratulations guys. Your first view in SAP UI5 is popping up in SAP Fiori application. This is your first view, but where is my second view, guys? What happened to my second view? Where did it go? So what happens behind the scenes when you add the view like this? The views are always getting added and only one view displayed at a time. Okay, and the first one which you added will get displayed. That's your default view. You can customize this as well. You can use your app control and set default view name. There must be some method. Actually, let's go to SDK and check, is there any way to set the default view? So let's set default transition name. Similarly, there has to be, yes, set initial page. This API you can call set initial page. Okay, and now inside set initial page you're going to pass here the ID of your view. So I want to make this time my second view as the default screen, so I can say ID second, and now it will display the second view as a default screen for us. Let's come back and refresh the page. You will see here the second view is popping up. Clear everybody? But now our purpose here is to actually do a navigation between these two views. So let me launch this in a mobile like a display. How will it look like in a mobile device? So I'll just do that a little bit like this, because yeah, you can see how it looks in a mobile device. So now our purpose is actually to navigate back and forth between first view and second view. So now you can realize by now that both the views are created and at a time one view is displayed as a default view for the page. Okay. Now one important point to note, let's look at our XML view quickly into Web IDE. So I come back to XML view and see here there is also some app control which they have added, which is not required. I'm going to remove that from the view. I'm just going to add the page object. Remember, every view in SAP Fiori, unlike UI5, it returns a page object. Okay, every view inside Fiori, it returns a page object. Same thing, we'll do it here. So this also returns a page object. We don't need container now here. Container is already kept at the top level and the views are part of it. And now inside the content of the page object, you will be putting whatever you desire, whatever you wish to put as part of a view in Fiori. Now, if you want to also check this page object, you can go to UI5 SDK and check here the page object. And you can see here sap.m.page object is available. You can check its aggregation. There is a content aggregation, and that's what exactly we are doing it here. A content aggregation in which you can place n number of variety of UI5 controls. So let's go ahead and put a button control inside each of the view. So I'm going to add a button over here and put the text property. And this is my first view, so I say go to next. Yeah, so I'm just typing here go to next, and I'm going to press event and I can say on next. That's my press event for the view. I come back similar to the second view and put a back button over here. Text equals to back on press, sorry, press is an event of the button, and then I say on back. That's an event name which I'm putting. It's customized event, whatever you wish you can put that. So both the views are ready with buttons. Now let's make our first view display by default. So I comment out this line and I'll see on a UI, your first view will display with a button popping up on the UI. Voila. So now when you click on next button, we want to navigate to the next screen. And similarly on the back button, you will be navigated to the first screen. How do you achieve that? It's very simple. Believe me, it's very, very simple. We can come to the controller and we're going to write our code in the controller. And you see, it's again a scaffolding template, which I taught you in the previous classes. So those who want to understand what is scaffolding template, please look at the missed class videos in our training. We have learned a lot in the previous chapters of SAP UI5. We discussed about scaffolding template as well. Just to give you a quick glimpse, you can see this is what we have learned by far. All the concepts related to modeling, view types, model types, model size, Open UI5, SAP UI5, runtime, what is design time objects, how to work with MVC architecture, what are the different varieties of views, what is the control hierarchy, aggregation concept, get core, API runtime instances, creating Fiori application, understanding the flow, CDN concept, MVC architecture, libraries. This is all what we have learned by far in our course, including HTML5, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery. So all this knowledge what you gained is now helping us to be able to create our Fiori application. Yeah, right, guys? Let's move on. So now I'm going to write down here my event handler for the view. So let's come for the first view. So let's come down, just put this function and curly braces, and that's my event handler. Now, what are all the steps here to be able to navigate to second view? Now, guys, tell me, just now I asked you this thing. If this view 2 wants to navigate to view 2, this view 1 wants to navigate to view 2, what is that it needs to do? Guys, come on. Just now I told you. What is that you need to do if you want to get the work done? What is that you need to do if you want to get the work done? Yes, you need to go via the app control, because app control knows its children's very well. So it has capability to navigate you to any of the view, right, guys? That's what exactly app control does. So very first step is you need to get the object of app control and then use an API of the app control to navigate to view 2. That's what we need to do. Can anybody tell me what is the instance which gives you runtime object of a UI5 control? How do you get runtime object of a UI5 control in SAP UI5? Anybody? I taught you this in the previous class. Who will tell me? How do you get object of, I need the complete API name. I don't want just a small API. Perfect answer, Dilip. It's SAP UI get code that gives you the runtime instance of running application. And then dot, which is the API in this, which will give me the exact UI5 control object, which is the API. Perfect answer once again, Dilip, by ID. And now we will put here by ID. And I can now take this in O app control. And now I can pass the ID of my app control over here to get the instance of the app control. Let's go to index.html. The ID here is ID app. Remember, it's not part of any view, hence it's immaculate. It will be untouched. It will not have any prefix with the view name. Usually when you put it inside an XML view, the view name will be prefixed, okay, before the ID. So right now it's not part of any view, so no view ID will be prefixed before this. So you can use this as it is. That gives you the app object, and now you can use an API called app.toAPI. This is a function in the app control to allow you to navigate to any other view. And now I can pass the ID of my second view, so it's ID second, and we are done, guys. Congratulations. Now you should see a navigation happening between first view to second view. Refresh. Don't forget to refresh. Click on go button, and voila, you see now it has navigated you to the second view. But when I press back button, it's not working. What do you think is a problem? Anybody? How do you solve this problem? Why navigation back is not working? What do you think is a problem? Anybody? We learned all of this in SAP UI5 chapter. Absolutely. Very good, Archana. Very good. Very good, Shweta. You are all right. Ravish, you are also right. We have forgot to implement the event handler for back button in the second view. Let's go to second view, and you see on back is an event handler. A similar code got to go in here. function curly braces, and I say var o core. You can also do break down these things like this. Yeah, this is what you can do. First you get the core instance, then you can get var o app object equals to o core. So just writing different style. I'm not using chaining concept in JavaScript right now. So earlier we used chaining and now we're not. So id app, that's my app object, and then just say oh app.to. Navigate it back to the first view. The ID of the first view is id first. And we're done. Save this. Let's come back. Refresh. Watch out the magic, guys. The next view, click on back button, takes you back to the previous view. What an amazing example. Navigating back and forth between the views. Wow, superb. So there's a question from Archana. Can't we create global variable for O app instead of writing every view? You can, but that's something right now I did not cover. There is a concept called base controller. We will discuss about that little later. So we can create a base controller, and in the base controller you can put that object. Maybe we will do that quickly now because we are almost done with the session. Let me create a base controller. So I can right click and say new, and I could create a new file, and I can say base controller dot controller dot js. And now I'm going to put my SAP UI define scaffolding template. Never copy paste the code, guys. Never copy paste the code. If you are copy pasting, you are cheating yourself. Don't cheat yourself. Don't cheat yourself. Never copy paste the code. If you are copy pasting the code, you are cheating. You are not a Nubos student. If you are copy pasting the code, initial days, don't copy paste the code. SAP UI core MVC controller, that's the dependency. And I can say O controller, and then I can say return O controller dot extend. Put the path here. Path is my OFT dot project dot base controller. That's the path, comma curly braces. And now in here, guys, we can add any global variable which I want to reuse. Okay, this is what it is doing. Did I do some mistake in defining something? So somebody is saying you've done a mistake. No, dot controller is not required. Okay, dot controller is not required after base controller. You can also see the standard controllers which are generated here. You see OFT dot project dot controller name. You can just learn with this how they are doing, how it was generated. Same fashion I've done. Now this guy now returning me an object of again a controller, and in this now I can define a global variable O app, and I can just say O app equal to sap.ui.getCore dot by id, and basically maybe I just define it as O core. Please mute your line, it's disturbing the class. Please mute your line. I will give you opportunity to ask questions. Please mute your line for time being. Okay, let's come down. So maybe I've created a O core variable. Archana, this is how you can create a global variable. And now believe me, what you can do, you can use power of OOPS programming inheritance concept. So what you've done, you have defined something called a base controller. Okay, this base controller is inheriting from SAP UI controller superclass. Okay, so earlier what you were doing, you were creating your first controller by inheriting from superclass. Okay, this you were doing earlier. Now you kill this and you point to your first controller to this base controller. Clear, everybody? This part, is this part clear? So what is happening? Watch out. Watch out again. I'll explain quickly again. Go to first controller. See the base class of this controller. See the base class from where it is inheriting. It's SAP UI Core MVC controller, right? The first controller. I created now a base controller doing the same thing, inheriting from the super class SAP UI MVC controller, and extended it and added my own attribute, own global attribute to it. I can also add my own function to it. So I can also add a function here, and I can say get app object, and I can say function, and I can say ocore return ocore dot by id and id app. It's a reusable function, guys. I have created a reusable function over here, get app object. It is returning an instance of this. I just create it into variable. Oh, it's giving me an error. Okay, sorry, this dot ocore. Yeah, it's a global variable, so this has to be used. Now you see, guys, this is a controller. Now what I'll do is I go to my main first controller, and I will, instead of inheriting from the base controller, I will now change the dependency to my base controller, which has now this extra functionality which I can inherit also. So this functionality is automatically available the moment you do inheritance with now your base controller. So change this dependency now to base controller, and what you can do is you can say oft/project and slash controller folder slash base controller. So whatever functionality you were earlier getting from standard SAP UI MVC controller is there, plus an extra functionality of ocore and get app object method you get. You can easily now call that. You don't need to do this all Mahabharata. You can just say var your app control, and you see in the base class you have a method. Just now we created get app object, right? This is a method we just created in the base class, get app object. You can use that here, right? You can use base class methods and properties in the child class. Is that clear, everybody? Basic OOPS principle, inheritance concept, and using the base class properties and functions in the child class. That's what exactly we're doing. We are saying extend my base controller, and then whatever is there, it's automatically accessible here, and that's it. Come back, refresh the page. Hope you understood this. This is pure inheritance concept, and same fashion it will work as it is the way it was working. Oops, we have a problem now. Let's go and check the console. What went wrong? Something definitely would have gone wrong, and let's go and check with the console. You see OFT project controller base controller.js from dot slash controller base controller. So folder structure is having a problem. It's not able to load this guy. Okay, I've done some mistake, I guess. Let me check. Okay, Giri is already telling Anubhav you have done a typo with controller. I am very bad in typos. Yes, this guy probably could be an issue. So controller, this is correct. Where have I done the
Hey,
mistake?
Anubhav, base controller, you need to add the controller folder to the extension. Yeah, oft.project.controller.base controller. O controller
Ah,
dot
sorry.
extend
Yes,
OF.
here we missed it. Sorry.
That's what I was saying.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for clarity. So this should be the complete path, guys. That's the mistake I've done. So now I save this. Let's come back, refresh. It's not loading. It's still not able to load. oft.project.controller.base controller. That's the definition. oft project controller.base controller.extend. So it's extending from UI core controller. That's correct. Returning the object. And I just come back here. We are going to use here OFT project controller base controller. That object comes here, and then we further extend this OFT project controller first. Maybe could be wrong with namespace. Let me take the copy of this namespace. Just if I've done some typo, it should be corrected. It will get corrected if I've done a typo. Refresh. No. Let's look at the issue, guys. Let's inspect this. It's actually not able to load OFT project controller base controller from dot slash controller base controller. It's not able to load that. It's not able to load our base controller, guys. There is some problem. So dot slash, it's not able to load. Let me check once again. So I think the problem here is putting this dot controller.js, an extra dot controller.js. Maybe the base controller should not have the dot controller.js extra. Let me remove this. I rename this and rename. I just save this, nothing else, guys. Let's come back and refresh our page. So I'm going to come back and refresh our page. And you see, guys, it works finally. So this was the mistake. When you're creating base controller, don't put dot controller.js. Just put base controller, inherit from the standard controller class, put your dependency over here with slashes. Don't put dots in dependencies in scaffolding. Always it should be slashes. And here you put the name of the controller, and then you put your objects, global objects. Inherit this. Now again, you see scaffolding dependency comes always with slash. That object is received here, and then you define your first controller, and then we are done. Just proceed with it. You will have an access now to this method. So you can also show you debugging, that you will see that when I call this method will take you to the base class method. So this is how you define global variables, global to all controllers. And that's the way all the controllers can now share that common functionality. That's the power of oops and inheritance concept. Let's come back, debug this. I'm going to refresh once again because I've added a debugger statement. Press F12. Let's click on the button, and voila, you should see it's hitting my debugger. Very good. Let's go step by step. F10, and now I press F11 to go inside this method, F11, and you see it has taken me to my base controller. And here it's getting the object. It got the object, it returns that object, and F8, voila, it navigated, guys. Clear, Archana? Answering to your question, how do you have something defined globally? Even now, this can be used in second controller, this whole thing. Okay, take this, copy this, go to second controller. Don't need all this unnecessary code. Just simply, even this whole thing can be done in a single line using chaining concept. So this dot get app object dot to, and I can say ID first. Sometimes it may be too much for some of you because you need to know oops concept. Oops is all about inheritance here in this case. Yeah. So let's work it upon, refresh, and now see complete back and forth navigation will work. But oops, this is not working here. This dot get app. Okay. The reason, you see, guys, now here the base class is not our base controller. See, base class is not our base controller. Base class is still the old UI5 controller class. So maybe we got to go back and put our base class as a base class for this. Abhi apna base class hai. So now our base class, it will take the object from, refresh the page, and voila. You see, your back and forth navigation is working. For user, no difference, but for a developer, big difference. Every single line of code I'm writing line by line. I'm not doing copy paste. Copy paste से नहीं सीख पाओगे, कभी नहीं सीख पाओगे. You can build the app, you can build a beautiful app, your manager will be happy, but you will yourself not get that confidence of building Fiori application. With that, it's a wrap on today's class. See you tomorrow at the same time. Have a nice day. Goodbye.